Presented by Mortgage Right. I'm your host, John Sarianides, and I'm joined by my partner, Kevin Stone, and Adam Kirchen, who's having some technical issues. We're trying to get Adam back. Hopefully, he's on with us. This week, we are also joined by Tony Catalina. Tony, how's it going tonight?
I'm good, man. I'm glad I'm here with you guys.
Well, thanks for taking the time. Adam, can you hear us now? Adam can hear us. We can't hear him, so hopefully he can get that worked out on his end, and he'll be able to join us. Again, unfortunately, for whatever reason, Adam's not coming through. I can hear Kevin, I can hear Tony, but we're waiting for hopefully Adam can get through here in a sec. But we do want to remind you that we are brought to you by Mortgage Right. If you're in the market to sell your current home or purchase your first home, give our good friend Herb Devine a call, 781-254-2846. You can also shoot him an email at hold on, I'm just trying to see at Herb at mortgageright.com. Just check it on Adam. He and his team are available anytime, including nights and weekends, to help you out. With over 27 years of experience, Herb truly has the resume to help you get into your next home. Again, if you're in the market to sell your current home or purchase your first home, give him a call at 781-254-2846 or shoot him an email at herb at mortgageright.com. All right, gentlemen. Patriots kicked off voluntary OTAs today in Foxborough. Kevin, you were there for that. A lot of storylines to talk about and some stuff to go over here. Of course, the primary focus is the quarterbacks. I'd say probably, and Kevin, you can correct me on this, probably 85, 90% of the guys that are going to be going to camp are there and participating. But again, the focal point was the quarterbacks, as well as some other positions that are being evaluated throughout the spring and will be evaluated this summer, the offensive line, wide receivers. But Kevin, I'm going to start with you. You were there. Just some thoughts on what you saw today. Of course, the Patriots are going to make 4 of these OTA practices available to the media, plus all 3 minicamp days next month. But what were you able to take away from what you saw today in day 1 of voluntary OTAs?
Yeah, it's just nice to be back up there, first of all. But there is definitely a different vibe. And we've talked about vibes, God knows how much now, but it's real and you can feel it as soon as you walk in there. John, we usually have to wait down the bottom of the stairs for them to let us up. It's a free for all now. You just walk up and you're at practice. We walked up with Coach Springer today, and it's different. But absences, it was only really Matt Judon, Anthony Jennings, and I'm missing one, Devon Gotcha as well. But Kendrick Bourne was there, Giovanni Tavai was there, and Cole Strange was there. They didn't participate, but good to see guys there. Good. I thought it was a pretty good attendance overall. You said 80-90. That's probably, excuse me, what it was. Overall, again, it was more in-depth than rookie minicamp, obviously because you have more guys there, but still hard to take a lot away. You guys all saw we posted the footwork video, and John, you can talk more to that than I can. That was sort of the main event, if you will. Was just everyone sort of standing behind the quarterbacks and watching them interact. The interaction was interesting. Guys joking around. There's not a sense of, I guess, too much. There's competition, but there wasn't any hate or anything like that. Alex Van Pelt kept it very loose, and receivers, Jalen Polk and Javon Baker, I thought they ran smooth routes, but again, it's hard to take away when you have minimal sort of 7-on-7 and teamwork. During that teamwork, though, Jacoby Brissett and Bailey Zappi dominated the reps. I believe it was 9 drives total between team and 7-on-7. Drake May had 2, Joe Milton had 1. And then it was all Jacoby and Bailey Zappi. So they're taking it slow with the rookies, as we all sort of figured would be the case. But just good to be back out there and see some real, well, quote unquote, real football. But again, it's the first day of OTAs. I heard Tom Curran on TV tonight. He said it's the first day of freshman orientation. It's the best way to put it. You really can't take much away, but just a solid work day overall, I would call it. And again, the vibes are very different. That's the most apparent thing to me.
Tony, aside from writing for us, of course, you also work for Pro Football Network. In terms of OTAs, in your estimation, and this is more for our viewers and our listeners' knowledge than anything else, how much of an emphasis should we put on OTAs? Are they that important?
Yeah, I mean, I think Kevin said it right, especially with the new coaching staff, a new era really in New England. And when you look at it as a league whole, it just get your toes back in the water, right? Get a helmet back on, getting a jersey, get around the guys a little bit, and and there is value in it. Absolutely, anytime you can get on the field and get any type of coaching period, any type of individual, it helps. But like you said, it's a check in. It's more of a let's get back in the swing of things a little bit. So anytime you can get on the ball field, I think it helps.
Yeah, I agree. I think it helps too. And I mean, again, the purpose of this is fundamental. It's about the individual periods, it's about the group periods, it's about installing the base offense, the base defense, the base special teams. That's what this is really all about. You want to have all that stuff in during these 3 phases in the spring so that when you do go to training camp at the end of July, at least the base offense, defense, and specials are in, and now you can focus on adding to what you've already installed. But Kevin, you bring up a good point, and I think a lot of people's takeaway was, okay, this must mean Brissett's the starter, Zappi's the backup, and then it'll be May as the third quarterback, and Joe Milton will have to beat out Zappi to potentially be the backup of the third quarterback. It's way too early, I think, to be having those conversations. I think what today tells you is, yes, the veterans are going to get the majority of the reps early. They're going to get to prove that they should be the starter and the backup. And then we'll let the young guys come along slowly. And when they're ready, they'll get more reps. And when they start to get it to a point where they can compete, especially in the summer, then yeah, maybe they can overtake a Bailey Zappi as the number 2 guy. And Drake May bumps up to 2, Joe Milton bumps up to 3. And I don't know, maybe Zappi's the odd man out. I think the bottom line is this. I think that OTAs are important. I think they play an important part in the development of an organization. But I think at the end of the day, and I said this last week after rookie minicamp, I think it's really important that we take this all in stride. We can't get ahead of ourselves here. We can't start to come to conclusions. I think we have to be realistic that it's going to be a slow process here. The media is going to be allowed to go back up next Wednesday on May 29th. I think by that point, they'll have a few more practices under their belt. I think you'll get a better idea of where everyone is. But I think the bottom line, and I think this is important, mini camp next month will tell us a lot more than these voluntary OTAs will, because by then you will have had installed a bunch of what you want to take a look at. That'll be more of an indication of where they are and where they're going to be going into camp than where they're at right now. And it's hard too, right? Because Kevin, you mentioned there were several veterans that did not participate today or weren't there. Again, I think it's important to stress it is voluntary. You can't make them be there. You hope that you have a strong enough team culture there that they want to be there and they want to participate and they want to be a part of it. But again, it's one of those things where you can't make them be there, and ultimately you're at their mercy. So we'll see. Now, of course, Gerard Mayo also met with the media prior to practice at 11:30. I thought Mayo had some pretty interesting things to say. Kevin, what is one thing that jumped out at you in terms of what he had to say?
A couple of things. He mentioned Matt Judon not being there, but he also mentioned, Judon's been a guy who's in and out this time of year. So it really wasn't that much of a surprise, but he is due for a contract. We knew this was coming last year. So that's definitely something to watch. But you had a one of the veterans there, which was important. I asked him about the staff and the roster that they gave us. There's 31 coaches on the roster, and when you first see the way they list it, it looks like a crap ton. And I asked him about that decision today, and he said, "Look, it sort of puts us up to par with the rest of the league, just because there was such a small staff under Bill." And when you think about it, that's not a knock on Bill; it's just fact. Like, he had a small staff because that's what he wanted. So that was, I thought that was interesting. I also asked him about Vinny DePalma and Kobe Tippett, 2 local guys. He called them grinders. They're sort of, we talked to Mike Reese 2 weeks ago. He called them kind of lower level, basically interns, and that's what they are. But he's happy to have them on staff. And I thought, he kind of threw them a bone a little bit, complimenting them. But the staff thing, people are going to make a huge deal out of that, and they really shouldn't. Again, as Mayo said, it's a normal staff size. People around here just aren't used to it. So I thought that stood out. And then in terms of the quarterbacks as well, he mentioned we're trying to get down to 3. So it's going to be between Bailey Zappi and Joe Milton at some point. So the reps today maybe sort of meant a little something. Again, it's too early, but they're going to have three quarterbacks. So one of those guys is going to be the odd man out. Overall, I thought those are kind of the three biggest points from him today.
Adam, can you hear us? Are you back on? You can hear us, but we cannot hear you. And that continues to be the story of our lives tonight. And again, hopefully Adam can jump back on here. Here's my question to you, Tony. Obviously, you cover the league. If let's say hypothetically they decide to carry Jacoby Brissett, Bailey Zappi, Drake May, is there any chance they can get Joe Milton on the practice squad, or do you think there's enough talent there based on what you saw during the pre-draft process that he would end up on another roster?
I was thinking about that while Kevin was talking, and obviously there's a lot of football and a lot to be sorted out in between now and then. But when you're talking about a late round quarterback, a guy with his type of traits, those guys don't usually slip through the cracks, right? Like somebody will see a big guy, a big arm, an athletic guy, somebody who can do some things, and they'll look at him as moldable clay. So I'm erring on the side of, like, if you like them and you think you can work with them, you tend to find a way to make it work. Now, again, numbers are the numbers, and every year you're going to end up, putting a guy out there that possibly could leave. It's just part of the business. But, with, 3 preseason games to sort it out and a ton of football to be played from, then you wonder and you start to play the roster gymnastics. But I think it'd be a tough challenge.
One thing on Milton too from today, I'm sure you guys saw the video. So they're rolling out, during the footwork drills. He was very accurate, short on the run, both left and right. I found that interesting, just given how much we've talked about how he can't throw short. And then one other video that I posted, it was absurd. They're throwing, they're flat-footed, but they're throwing about 20, 25, maybe 30 yards downfield. Flick of the wrist, he accidentally threw the ball like 60 yards. The intern going to catch the ball had to go in a dead sprint to go catch up to it. So he's definitely, look, it's entertaining as hell to watch him. But it feels like, again, it's day one. But I do think Zappi would beat him out right now. My question for both of you would be, with the whole, the way they situate quarterbacks now on game days, I would like to think they could have some packages for Joe Milton. So would that change anything with how they build this?
Yeah, I don't see him as a package quarterback. I know that that was something that scouts talked about in their evaluations of him, and some members of the media talked about that. I don't see that with him. I don't think he's your classic direct snap Cam Newton type, especially in the red zone, run him downhill. I just don't. Could he do that? Yeah, I think he could, but that's not his strength. I think, believe it or not, despite his accuracy issues, I think his strength is playing from the pocket and throwing the football, especially intermediate and vertically. And so, look, I think he's very raw. I think he has a lot of talent, but here you are getting all juiced up about him throwing a ball 60 yards. That doesn't mean shit at the end of the day. At the end of the day is he accurate in the short, intermediate, and then vertical passing game? If he can't show that he could be accurate in all 3 levels, I don't think it's going to matter. But I don't, and I don't know how you feel about this, Tony. I don't envision a scenario where he's a package guy. I think part of the reason they drafted him is I think he'll be a good scout team quarterback. He'll give them good looks. I think that's where he probably offers them the most value this season, to be honest with you guys. But do I see them dabbling in a package where they could get him on the field? I don't see that. And I think another point that's important to make here is that's not how these West Coast offense guys operate. They're not the kind of guys that are going to take their starting quarterback out of the game to run a direct snap package and get gimmicky. They just don't operate that way. That's not their deal. So I don't envision a scenario where they do that with him.
Also, and correct me if I'm wrong here, I believe the way the quarterback 3 is on game day, it's more of a break glass type of situation anyway, where you got to have 2 injuries before he even comes into the game. So if in order for him to
have injuries,
right, and in order for him to be in this package, you got to have a real game day roster situation where could you trust him at QB2 if he needed, and if so, then maybe there's some things we can do. But there's a lot that goes into that decision, and if he isn't in the QB3 QB4 room, I don't know if he's going to be QB2 on game day.
Well, no, and Tony, I'm glad you brought that up. Right, you'd have to dress him as QB2 if you're going to use him like that. And again, I think if you're the Patriots, I don't think they're going to be in a position this season, even though they're going to want to be competitive and they're going to want to do things to be competitive. I don't think they're going to be in a situation where they can afford to elevate him to QB2 to potentially use him in goal line situations. Look, with the way they're going to run the football, that's who's going to get the first touch in those situations. It's going to be Ramondre Stevenson. It's going to be Antonio Gibson. It's going to be any one of the other backs. I don't necessarily think it's going to be to bring him into the game, take the starting quarterback out, or maybe line him up as a split end or a flanker and run Joe Milton. I just don't see that with him. Adam Kirchen, we're going to give you one more shot here, my man. You know, it's either you're with us or we got to vote you off the island for the week. You can hear us, but try to talk to us. No luck. Adam is part owner of this thing, and he's getting voted off the island. I don't know what's going on. Again, if you can figure it out, my man, obviously, you know, we'd love to get your 2 cents here, but Adam will continue to work through his technical difficulties. This will be one hell of a podcast for our listeners throughout the week. They'll be listening to me talk about technical difficulties. Couple of other things real quick that Mayo talked about that I think are worth mentioning. He talked about the receiver competition and how it is a competition. Patriots currently have 11 wide receivers on the roster. Kendrick Bourne doesn't appear like he's going to be ready to go this spring. Juju Smith-Schuster, he met with the media and announced himself 100% healthy. I thought Mayo was a little bit guarded in regards to his comments on Smith-Schuster. Smith-Schuster was definitely a lot more positive about his situation, I thought, than Mayo was. What are your thoughts on that, Kevin?
So look, I shouldn't say he won me over, but he started to today. He said he was 60% healthy last year. And look, he looked like that. So maybe he was, and he stays 100% now. He moved well, and again, he moved well today, but it's half speed for the most part. So hard to tell, but look, if he's dead serious and he thinks he can, contribute, well, then the receiver room is automatically better. We've all questioned, are they deep enough? Right now, it doesn't seem like it, but if you can get something out of him, I thought for sure he was gone on draft weekend. Whatever they could get for him, I thought he was gone. He's not. The contract obviously made it tough. So look, let's see what happens. And they're willing to give him another shot, obviously. He's here and you got to pay him. So if he can contribute, great. The thing that stood out to me was at the very end, as he's walking away, he said, wait till you guys see the locker room. The vibes are much better. So there's still some shots at Bill, going around. And Mayo even had one today when Andrew Callahan asked him, I forget what the question was, but he said, you're not used to getting that information, are you? So there's some cheap shots still going around about Bill, but in terms of receiver,
that is such an overreaction with the cheap shots and Bill stuff. It really is. Look, but I'm gonna make an offer. Right. No, go ahead, and then I'm gonna respond to that. But go ahead, finish up.
No, just to finish on the receivers. KJ Osborne looked pretty good too. Again, he's gonna have to prove something.
He's kind of a forgotten guy in this mix.
Yeah, and he's gonna be, I don't want to say a big signing, but he's an important signing for them as well. And then, let's just see how the rest of the depth chart shakes out. You have Jalen Reagor out there, and guys like that still. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But the Juju thing is very interesting because, again, if you can get something out of him, talk about a forgotten guy. Again, I thought he was gone during draft weekend. So he's definitely someone you can pay some attention to during OTAs and minicamp. And, let's see what happens with them.
Tony, do you take Juju Smith-Schuster if you're the Patriots over one of these young receivers, over a Kayshon Boutte or well, I'm not going to go into guys like TJ Luther, but do you take him over a guy like that potentially?
Tony, it's interesting.
Real quick, sorry, you mentioned Boutte. I forgot to mention him. Terrible today. 3 different times when we were watching him run routes, he never turned his head around. Just complete miscommunication. Feels like it was on him. So as a guy who's sort of on the bubble and not just legally, bad day for him. That's one guy you can say he had a bad day, even if it is OTAs. Sorry, I had to get that out there.
No, it's good information. But to answer your question, John, it's he's got skins on the wall, right? Like Juju Smith-Schuster has played good football at times, and when you're looking at this wide receiver room, there's a lot of young talent that you can feel good about, and if the future is bright in some senses, but you need somebody that can step up right now, right? You need guys along with Kendrick Bourne, KJ Osborne. Like if Juju Smith-Schuster is somebody who has played productive football, that's something that the Patriots can look at and say, okay, this is something that we could use, but he's got to be healthy. He's got to be available and he's got to be ready to go. So I guess you got all training camp to figure that out. But if he is even a fraction of what he can be, I think it's somebody you keep around.
Yeah, given the Cowboys' current receiver situation, it might be the Cowboys by
the
end of the summer. But in all seriousness, I agree with you. Look, your top three guys as it stands right now are going to be Bourne if he's healthy, Osborne, and Smith-Schuster. And I know Patriot fans want it to be Polk and Baker and Pop, and those guys will certainly be in the mix. This is a good chance the Patriots carry 6 receivers by the time we get to the start of the season, and those are probably going to be your 6. Kayshon Boutte is probably playing himself out of any shot of making this team. A couple of the guys at the bottom of that 11 list won't make the team, but there's a good chance that the names I just mentioned are probably your 6 receivers. Look, I think that at times last season, the conversation was, we know Smith-Schuster's not healthy. It's not more about this season as much as it is about next season, when the expectation is he will be healthy and can play. Well, it's next season. So I think at the very least, you have to give him another year to see if he could get back to the level, because he has had a couple of really productive top 10 seasons at the position. I think you got to give him another year. I think he's a good fit in this system. He's getting, look at what Amari Cooper has done in this system. Look at what other guys have done in this system, veteran receivers. Nico Collins down in Houston last year. So I think a veteran receiver can thrive in this offense. And I think Juju Smith-Schuster could end up being and again, I'm going to be a little bullish with what I'm about to say. He could be a 70 to 80 catch guy for this team next year, 800 or 900 yards, 5 or 6 scores. If he's healthy, plays all 17 games, he could put up those kinds of numbers. So I think it would be foolish for them to shop him or try to move on from him. You've got to see what he could give you, because he's a big body target with strong hands, a wide catch radius. He is going to be an appealing target underneath. They're going to run a lot of middle of the field stuff, a lot of crossers, a lot of dig routes, slants. He's going to thrive on those routes. He can be productive on those kinds of routes. So for me, I'd like to see him be here next year, because I think he can be a big part of this passing game, assuming he stays healthy. With him, of course, it is a big if. Real quick, before we move on from the Patriots and talk about their schedule next year, Cole Strange, Mayo came out today and basically said it's not week to week with him. It's month to month, which means that knee injury was obviously a pretty severe knee injury. He's not close. He may even start the season on the PUP list. Thoughts on that, his comments in regards to Cole Strange and him being month to month?
Just before we move too far on, one more receiver.
Here we go with the receivers.
No, just one guy we forgot about who spoke last week, Tyquan Thornton, who said he put on a ton of muscle and he did look bigger. You mentioned the system, and they've already talked a lot about running play action. If anybody can run deep, it's him. So that's a guy who hopefully, can turn things around, because I think he can ultimately help this offense. I was talking to Taylor Kyles and Brian Hines today. I don't know if Cole Strange is
really. You never talked to those guys.
Never. I'm not sure he's on the team. I really don't.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that. I don't think he makes the team right now.
Yeah, it's just
I think he's on the outside looking in.
Yeah, and especially month to month. Again, he was out there today, but in street clothes, and it's neat that he's around the team and being a good teammate. But just ultimately, if any of these young guys can do anything better than him, I think he's out. So look, you can't rush him back, but if you're him, you got to bust your ass to get out of the tub as soon as possible. Otherwise, someone's going to take his job, I think.
Well, I don't think – listen, we're going to talk about this ad nauseum, I feel, but you're not keeping him over Polk and Baker. So that's who he's competing against. I mean, because you have to figure Smith-Schuster, Bourne, Osborne are pretty close to locks. I think Smith-Schuster would have a pretty bad camp for them to decide to move on from him and eat money. So I don't know where you stand on this, Tony. I think Thornton's a long shot.
Yeah, I mean, look at the way they drafted. Look at some of the veterans they brought in. Like, he's clearly on the outside looking in. I think he understands the situation. And in the NFL, it's what have you done for me lately? How could you help this team? And you could become an afterthought real quick. And I think he's quickly becoming that if he doesn't do something this training camp.
All right, you are watching / listening to the New England Football Show presented by Mortgage Right. I'm your host, John Sarianides. As always, I'm joined by Kevin Stone and Adam Kirkshin, although we can't hear Adam Kirkshin tonight. He is back. He's going to give it one more shot, the old college try. Tonight, we're also joined by Pro Football Networks and New England Football Journal correspondent Tony Catalina. Kirkshin, can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Oh!
Hallelujah.
I fixed it.
You did. I don't know what you did, but you did fix it. But before you give us your 2 cents, and I'm afraid, my man, we're going to have to transition to the schedule. So that's where we're going to get your 2 cents. I do want to remind our viewers and our listeners that if you are in the market to sell your current home or purchase your first home, give our good friend Herb Devine a call, 781-254-2846, or shoot him an email at herb@mortgageright.com. He and his team are available anytime, including nights and weekends, with over 27 years of experience in the mortgage industry. Herb Devine is your guy. I know that I speak for Kevin and Adam when I say this. He is one of the best people out there as a person, but when it comes to the mortgage industry and helping you, he's one of the best in the business. I would know. I'm in the real estate business. I am an agent myself, licensed in Massachusetts and Rhode Island. I could speak to Herb's experience again. Give him a call, 781-254-2846, or shoot him an email at herb@mortgageright.com. All right, gentlemen, Patriots schedule came out on Wednesday night. It was last Wednesday night, the 15th. And look, here's the thing. I want to go through it real quick, and I want us to each give our projected record for them for the upcoming season. But before we do that, just real quick, your overall thoughts on the schedule. Then we'll go week by week, and we'll each pick each game, and we'll see if we can come up with a consensus for a final record. But just some overall thoughts on the schedule. Adam, the floor is yours.
Thank you. It's great. It's great to be back. Switched browsers, and that was the difference. Overall, the schedule, I think it's tough for them, but I think we talked about this last week too. I think it would have been tough. Any schedule would have been tough for this team, because this team is not starting from a place of power and strength. They're rebuilding. At least I think so. I would hard to see any other way. And it's funny. I think I look at that schedule and I start wondering, at what point does Drake May possibly get on the field? Not in a blowout, but as a starter. And it's going to be look, I think it's a tough schedule. I don't think there's a ton of wins on there. But I would have said that with basically any schedule. The NFL, they're going to win a couple games. They're going to lose some games too. I think it really just gets off to a great start with that Cincinnati game. That'll be such a fun atmosphere for that. But I just don't think, I don't look at the schedule and think playoffs. I'll say that much.
3 things stand out to me. One, the lack of primetime games. We knew that was coming, but only one is, it just sort of reminds us how far they've fallen this quickly. And it's also, selfishly, it's nice for us to not get home at 2 a.m. Second thing is the Buffalo 2 out of the last 3 weeks. That's wild to me.
I'll say what you really want to say, because I know you. We've known each other for a long time. It's asinine.
So,
because I agree with you.
Partly, yes. It's just, look, it's a divisional opponent. Like, you shouldn't have to wait till December to see them, and especially the 2 of the last 3 weeks. Whether Buffalo is the same Buffalo or not, it's asinine. And the third one I'm blanking on. Oh, the Week 14 bye. A lot of people didn't like it, and Mayo said, look, it's a long way to wait today, but it's also, I think it's a nice spot to reset before those last 4 games. No matter what their record is, I've always thought the later the bye, it sort of helps you a little bit. Like,
I agree.
Week 8, you know what I mean? So those are the 3 biggest takeaways for me.
To kind of piggyback off what you said, Kevin, if this is a playoff team, or if you believe this team has playoff aspirations, that Week 14 bye could come at a huge time, right? To reset yourself, get that last month push, and see what you can do. But I sit here and I look and I don't think anybody's envious of the schedule. The first 6 weeks of this schedule is like, I think it rivals anybody in difficulty. I mean, Cincinnati, Seattle, New York, San Fran, Miami, and then you talk about Houston, like they really do have a really tough schedule in a transitional season with a possible rookie quarterback. When that happens, like, I mean, they're going to get their money's worth. And I do think maybe I'm a little bit bullish from the outside looking in. I think the Patriots defense, if they are what we think they are, they could surprise some people, but it's just going to come down to what happens with Jacoby Brissett, what happens with Drake May, and how do they survive the first month and a half of the season.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Tony. When you look at that schedule to start the year, I mean, that is a tough slate. And you're open at Cincinnati. Seattle comes here. Now, they do have a new head coach in Mike McDonald. I think that's something to take into consideration. Then you play your only primetime game, week 3, at the Jets on a Thursday night. Then you go to San Francisco. Of course, the Patriots did petition the league to play San Francisco and Arizona back-to-back. Clearly, that petition was denied. Then you come home on October 6th and 13th, and you play the Miami Dolphins and the Houston Texans, which is amazing, right? Because 10 years ago, if you told us that the Patriots are playing the Dolphins and the Texans back-to-back, you're probably checking those two off as wins. But times have changed. Patriots haven't won a playoff game in 5 years. The late bye, look, I think the reason why the late bye is on a lot of people's minds, and that is the latest possible bye that they could have, week 14, is because that's probably when, if assuming that Jacoby Brissett stays healthy, if they make the decision to play Drake May at the end of the year, you have to think it's going to be after that bye week. It's going to be week 15. I still maintain you keep him under wraps. Maybe you play him in that last home game against Buffalo, throw the fans a bone, give them something to get excited about. But if you can avoid playing Drake May this year, I would. I don't think that's going to be the case. I do think ultimately they're going to play him. And I'll take it a step further. I think they're going to play him after that bye. If Brissett stays healthy, I think that Drake May is your starting quarterback at Arizona coming off that bye. I really believe that if we're going to see him in 2024, that's when we're going to see him. I don't think they're going to wait until the Buffalo game at home. But, you know, Kevin, to your point, it is startling that this franchise was the marquee primetime franchise for a long time in the last 20 years. And now you look at them, they have one primetime game, which is the standard Thursday night game, although not everybody gets that game. We all thought that they do. The Carolina Panthers have no primetime games. One other thing, aside from the primetime games, I mean, a ton of 1 o'clock kickoffs, which admittedly, not to sound like Stone, I'm a fan of. I'm excited about that. Not even as a fan, I don't love the 4:25 kickoffs. I'm not. To me, give me 1 o'clock or give me a primetime game. I don't like the middle of the day kickoffs. Then when you look at the schedule too, one of the other things that caught my attention is how unbalanced it is, because you're on the road, home, road for the next 2, home for the next 2. Then you go to London, which is the other thing we didn't talk about. October 20th, they play the Jaguars in London. That'll be a 9:30 in the morning kickoff. Then you come back and host the Jets. Then you go on the road for 2, Tennessee, Chicago. Then you come home for 1. Then you go on the road. Then it's all over the place. So that's life in the NFL. I'm sure if you look at every other team's schedule, you'd probably see that it's just as unbalanced. But real quick, before we try to figure out how we think they're going to finish, thoughts on the London game? Are you surprised that for the second year in a row, they gave the Patriots an international game?
I am a little bit. I would think they'd try to move something like that around. But I don't. It's just a crazy disruption to your season. You know, it's like you're asking a lot of a team to go out there. But I think they'll be able to handle it. I just think it's a little strange.
Surprised, yes. I'm more surprised they don't have a bye after that game. It seems like every single season, every team, gets that courtesy bye, if you will. So that was surprising. Honestly, it feels like throwing the Jags a bone. They're basically the Jacksonville or the London Jaguars now, and they're staying out there too. This might have been the NFL trying to throw them a win overseas. I honestly believe that. So surprised, yes, but I'm more surprised they didn't get the bye afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, looking at it in back-to-back years, it is a bit surprising. But I wonder if just the fan base appreciates New England Patriots football, what it was, some of the history they've seen over the last 2 decades. But yeah, the Jacksonville Jaguars basically have a residency at this point overseas, so it's I'm not too surprised. But yeah, it's a little bit alarming. I do think the bye week thing is kind of crazy. How do you not help them out after that? But I digress.
No, I agree. I'm surprised they got an international game for the second year in a row, considering they played in Germany last year. That game against the Colts was one of the worst games of the season, both from a watch and fan perspective, but also for the league. And now you give them another international game. These are supposed to be marquee games for the league. Again, these aren't Tom Brady, Bill Belichick's Patriots. That's a different story. Patriots are arguably the most popular international team, or at least the most popular team in Europe for the NFL. And that probably factored into this decision a little bit. But again, I am a bit surprised that they gave them back-to-back international games. Hey, if nothing else, the local media is going to love that. They got to go to Germany last year. They'll go to London this year, and they'll hit the pubs and have some fish and chips. All right, gentlemen, let's quickly, as we wrap up the Patriots talk here before we move on to the showcases, let's just go through this real quick. And I'm just going to go through each game. I'm going to tell you win or a loss. You tell me win or loss, and you have about 10 seconds to tell me your thought process. Let's start September 8th, the season opener at the Cincinnati Bengals. Adam Kirkshin, win or a loss?
Loss. The Bengals are just too good.
Stone. Okay, now we can't hear Stone. Catalina.
Yeah, I think it's a loss. I think the Bengals are a little bit too talented. Week 1, I think it'll be a tough loss.
Sorry,
Stone, back
loss.
to you.
Loss. I was on mute. Loss.
All right, stop muting. There's no Boston sports on tonight. And don't pretend like you care about the Red Sox. All right, I'm going to go 4 for 4 here. I think they lose week 1. Joe Burrow's back. He's healthy. Tough place to play in Cincinnati. I think they start 0-1. Week 2, they come back home for the home opener against Mike McDonald and the Seattle Seahawks. Adam Kirkshin, win or a loss?
I have to say win. I think Seattle's kind of in disarray too, so it's at home. That's where they get their first one.
Stone.
Yeah, I'm gonna go win again. They're in the same boat. You're both sort of in transition. So if you're gonna get 1 or 2 this year, I think that's one of them.
The Catman.
Yeah, I do. I actually do think the Patriots win. Seattle cross country, early kick. I think there's a lot of factors in the Patriots' favor here.
Very good point, Tony. I agree with you. I'm also going to agree with the three of you. I had this as one of my wins. I think they beat the Seattle Seahawks week 2, and I think the faithful go home happy. Week 3, back on the road for Thursday night football against the New York Jets. They're healthy. They loaded up this offseason. These aren't your brother's Jets or your daddy's for that matter. Kirkshin, win or loss?
I'll go with the Jets here. I mean, seems like, if Rodgers is truly back and feeling good, I think they obviously have the QB edge there. So I'll go with the Jets there.
Loss. That's the Jets home opener. Just a brutal spot.
Yeah, if Aaron Rodgers kind of rounds into form in week 3, maybe he starts to look like himself. I think it could be a tough situation for the Patriots there.
4 for 4. I agree. I think they lose. They don't lose to the Jets often, but I think they will lose to the Jets week 3 to drop 1 and 2. They stay on the road, but this time they go out west to take on the San Francisco 49ers. Week 4, Adam Kirkshin, win or a loss?
I think that's a loss too. I think the Niners are just in a totally different place roster-wise, and they're just too strong here.
Yeah, I'll go loss. I do think it's more competitive than people think just because of the defense, but you can't keep up with them on offense.
Yeah, as a Cowboys fan, I see the 49ers in my nightmares. I just have too much respect for the talent and what they're doing over there with Kyle Shanahan's offense. I think it's a loss.
Yeah, I think it's a loss too. I think that the defense, to Kevin's point, I think will keep them in the game. But I think ultimately that defense, that pass rush is a little too much for the Patriots. They lose by 2 scores, 10 to 14 points. All right, next up, they come back home October 6th. They are currently 1-3 according to us. They host the Miami Dolphins. They lost to the Dolphins at home last year on Sunday Night Football. Kirkshin, is this a win or a loss?
I think it's a loss. I think that they lose both games to Miami. I just don't, again, from a talent perspective, I don't know how they keep up.
I'm actually going to go win here. Look, that Sunday night game last year, you had a shot late. So I do think the defense, again, keeps them in it. I'm going to give them this one.
Yeah, I'm actually with Stone on this. I think the Patriots find a way to win. I think Gerard Mayo could kind of frustrate Tua a little bit. I'm not as big on Tua as a lot of people are. I think the Patriots steal one here.
Yeah, I'm going to respectfully disagree with both of you. I'm Team Kirkshin on this one. I think Miami comes in here and wins, and the Patriots drop to 1-4. I just think, look, one of the things we saw in that Sunday night game last year was their speed was a real problem for the Patriots. Their personnel is not that much different than last year. Miami is still fast. That's the difference in this one. All right, CJ Stroud, Houston Texans visit on October 13th. Kirkshin, win or a loss?
I mean, most of my head says loss, but I kind of feel like they sneak out a weird win over the Texans here games is up here. I just have a feeling they win that game.
I'm going to go loss there, but again, I think it's closer than people think, and I do think Houston takes a small step back this year.
Yeah, I mean, I do think Houston's one of those young, exciting teams, and I think it's two young, exciting head coaches. I think ultimately Houston does win the game, but I'm with you guys. I think it'll be a little tighter than people may expect.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Houston as well. I do think they'll take a step back. I don't think they're going to be as good as people think they are, but I think they're better than the Patriots right now, and they'll be the better team here. I like Houston in what should be like a 20-13 kind of game. I think it'll be a close game. It'll go well into the fourth quarter tight, but I think Houston is slightly better on offense with CJ Stroud and that skill group. They get it done. All right, London game on October 20th in London, 9:30 kickoff against the Jaguars. Win or a loss, Kirkjian?
I'm gonna say loss. I kind of like the Jaguars this year, but I'm not like fully into them. It's weird things happen overseas. I don't know. I like the Jaguars.
I'm going to say loss, but the Patriots do have a pretty good track record in London. So, and it is the Jags. You never know; they could choke. But I'm going to take Jacksonville here.
I think the Patriots can frustrate Trevor Lawrence here. I think the Patriots can go overseas and get a W here for me.
Yeah, I agree with Tony. I think this is their second win, in my opinion. I think they win this game. Look, the Jaguars are too Jekyll and Hyde. They run hot and cold, way too inconsistent. I mean, here we are talking about Trevor Lawrence's future. Some people believe they should pay him, some don't. I think it speaks to what this franchise is right now, which is on a roller coaster ride. Trevor Lawrence could potentially be the Dallas Cowboys starting quarterback in 2025. I don't think the Catman would mind that. I say they win. I'm going with the Patriots here to pick up their second win of the season. All right, they come back home on the 27th for Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets again. What do you got, Kirkjian?
I don't think they'll lose all their division games. I think this is one they steal at home and move forward from there.
I'm with Kirkjian. I don't think Aaron Rodgers is healthy by this point. I think they get a very low scoring win.
I can't go there and say a win just yet, but I do say at home, I think they can frustrate Rodgers a little bit the second time around, be a tightly more contested game. I still think it's a loss personally.
I think that they beat the Jets. I think they make it 2 in a row here. They beat the Jets, and I think they go on a little run here. I'm kind of showing my hand here, but I think they beat the Jets in what should be a low-scoring game. I think they'll frustrate Rodgers. I think they'll do enough on offense to win a 17-13 kind of game. All right, they go back on the road November 3rd to take on Will Levis and the revamped Tennessee Titans. Kirkjian, what do you think they do against the Titans?
I'm not a huge believer in Levis, so I'm going to go with the Patriots to win this one here.
Yeah, I'm going to have them win this one too. And I know you guys want to wait for Drake May, but this is where the good matchups could start. You go back to CJ Stroud, probably not going to face him, but there's a potential for some really good matchups between young quarterbacks here. This is one of them.
Yeah, I think I'm going to make it 3 in a row. I do think the Patriots, I think if in a rare case, I think they could outclass them a little bit here. And I think I like the Patriots in this one.
Yeah, I think that the Titans spent a lot of money, hired Brian Callahan as their new coach. Brought in his father, Bill, as the offensive line coach. On paper, they look good, but paper doesn't win you games. Players do. And I think that the Patriots defense comes to play. They'll frustrate Levis. They'll do enough on offense to, again, they're going to win a lot of these kinds of games this year. It'll be a 21-14 kind of game. That's 3 in a row for me now. I've got them winning 3 in a row. Next up, they go to Chicago on November 10th to take on Caleb Williams and the new look Chicago Bears. Kirkjian, win or loss?
I say a win. I think Drake May is in at this point, and he beats his draft counterpart in Caleb Williams, and I think the Patriots get a nice win here.
John, do you want to read that question first or no?
No, go ahead. I'll read it after you guys are done.
Yeah, I'm with Adam here. I think, again, this is one of those potentially awesome young quarterback matchups. Give me the Patriots here.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the Bears, like you said, John, about, on paper, they look good. Like they look like they got some offensive weapons to be afraid of, but you got to go out there and play ball. And I think Gerard Mayo's defense could frustrate a rookie quarterback.
Ken checks in. Ken Matthias checks in. What do you gentlemen see Drake May? What week rather do you gentlemen see Drake May making his NFL debut, if and when that were to happen? I think we all universally agreed that the bye week was probably the best week, week 14. We all think that that's probably when we'll see him. I'm going to go 4 in a row for the Patriots here. They now have 5 wins on the season. The fan base is excited. They start talking playoffs. In Mayo, we trust. Look, I want Caleb Williams to fail miserably. I think he looks stupid in the number 18. I think he's going to fall on his face. I think he's going to be on a bust. He's going to be a bust. Not going to be on a bust because that meant he was good. He's going to be a bust. Screw the Bears. Packers fan coming through here. Patriots win to make it 4 in a row. All right, Kirkston, November 17th. Sean McVay, man, and the LA Rams come to town. How do you see that one playing out, Adam?
Nice impression, by the way.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it, Chucky Soup, man.
I like the Rams here. I still think they've got something left in the tank. Better overall roster at this point. So I'll go with the Rams.
Yeah, offensively, you can't keep up with them, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, I like Matthew Stafford. I think they got some elements of that offense. Puka Nacua, I think it'll be a tough matchup.
Yeah, I think it is too. And I think Sean McVay, man, one of the best offensive coaches in the game, man. He'll give the Patriots problems, man. But I think who?
You sound like Martinelli.
What? How do you figure? Brian or Jack? I definitely don't sound like Jack. Yeah, I agree. I think that their winning streak comes to an end here. I think the Rams are legit. They'll be a factor in the NFC. I think they come in here and they get the win. All right. House of Horrors up next. Pre-Thanksgiving weekend, they go to Miami to take on the Dolphins. I don't even remember the last time they won there. Probably like 5 years ago. But
I'm going with the Dolphins here again. They're the better team, and they've got the the special spice down in Miami. So I just can't see the Patriots going down there and getting that one.
Special spice. Care to elaborate? What are we talking about here?
No. Just I mean like how everything weird happens in Miami.
I didn't know if you were implying that they have the special spice, but anyway, Stone.
That's not what I meant.
Yeah, Miami. I mean, I'm sure. I know they've won there since then, but the only one that I ever remember them winning in Miami is that Hail Mary to Troy Brown. What was that? 03?
Oh, well, they've
that's
won
the only
since
time.
then. Yeah.
No, I know, but I'm saying
since then, but
yeah, no, but that's the only one that ever stands out to me because it's happened so few times. So, yeah, give me Miami here.
Yeah, I think I said that we're going to play them tough early in the season. I can't in good conscience say they're going to win both of them. I think Miami take care of business at home.
Yeah, I think they will too. And, we talk about memorable games in Miami. I don't know, maybe I'm showing my age here, but for me, the two that stick out the most will always be 86 when they beat the Dolphins in the AFC Championship game at the Orange Bowl. And then the 94 game, the Bledsoe Marino shootout. That game is one of my favorite football games of all time. It was so much fun to watch. It's when, like most Patriot fans, I fell in love with Drew Bledsoe, and I've been a Bledsoe honk ever since. All right, they come back home December 1st to take on Shane Steichen's Indianapolis Colts. Shane Steichen. What do you got, Kirkston?
I think this is a winnable game. I think they take this one. I'm not that high on the Colts for this coming season. I just don't think they're all that special. Patriots get the win here.
But you're high on the Dolphins.
Yeah.
It's that special sauce.
Oh, God.
Go ahead, Stone.
If not for Mac Jones's, one of the worst throws in the history of football last year, he probably beat Indy. So I think they can. And again, it's another potentially, a sign of things to come with Richardson and May potentially, duking it out.
Yeah, I do think this is a winnable football game. This is one of those. A lot of times when I say the Patriots are going to win a game, it's because the defense steps up in a big way. I think this might be one of those games they could do that.
Yeah, this one's a tough one for me. I kind of see it as a toss-up. I didn't think that they were going to win it at first. I'm going to take them to win it now because I'm going to stick to my prediction that this could be a 6-11, 7-10 team. This is one of those games I think they win. I think it's going to be a really close game, a 24-21 game, but I think they pull it out. All right, then they have the bye, week 14. They come out of the bye, and they go out west, manifest destiny, baby, to take on the Arizona Cardinals out in Glendale. Kirkshin, who do you got in this one?
I don't know. I don't think the Cardinals are that strong, so I think the Patriots win in a sort of minor upset. I don't know, but I think the Patriots take this one. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't believe in Kyler Murray. Give me the Patriots.
I think the Patriots win this game too, but in-game matchups, if you're a fan of the game like we all are, I would love to see Christian Gonzalez versus Marvin Harrison. I think that's gonna be a super fun matchup, but I do think the Patriots get the W here.
Yeah, I think that's gonna be a terrific head-to-head matchup. It's what makes football the best sport ever. Is it's not only the overall matchups, but the matchups within the game, and that's gonna be a hell of a matchup. I like the Patriots too. I think they go out there and they get it done. Arizona is a year away from being a playoff contender. They still need another strong offseason. Patriots are better, and I think they go out there and they get it done. They come back home on December 22nd. Actually, I'm sorry, they go to Buffalo next on December 22nd, 3 days before Christmas to take on the Bills. Kirkshin, who do you got?
Hard to pick against the Bills, especially up there. I think the Bills take this one. Josh Allen and company win.
Yeah, I think Buffalo's down this year, but they still get this one.
Yeah, I mean, looking at it at the end of the year, if they have playoff aspirations, they're gonna have to lock in the last month, and I think Buffalo will find a way to grind out a W if they have to.
Yeah, early Christmas present for Stone. Papa Stone comes through and sends him to Orchard Park to cover this one, but it's not going to matter, despite the fact that Stone is a good luck charm for the Patriots. I think ultimately Buffalo will be in the playoff hunt by that point. Patriots will be in the outside looking in. Nobody rallies the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. They get it done. And I'm with Kevin. They're going to take a step back. I know that they revamped their receiving core, but when you look at what they brought in, did they really get better? Or any of those guys an upgrade over Stephon Diggs? I don't think so, but we'll see. All right, then Patriots have 2 home games left to wrap up the season. They come back home on what we're to assume is going to be December 29th for 1 o'clock kickoff against the LA Chargers. Kirkshin, who do you like there?
I think the Chargers are going to be good just because I respect Harbaugh a lot as a coach, and I think Herbert's a great quarterback who hasn't really realized his full potential yet. But I think Harbaugh will get it out of him, and I think Chargers win here.
I'm going Patriots. Same thing as the Indy game last year. It was an ugly game, and you were in it till the end. So cold weather up here, and again, cross country. Give me the Patriots.
Yeah, I'm in lockstep with Kevin here. I think cross country, cold weather. Who knows what the Chargers and the Harbaugh team looks like right now? I defense, it travels in any weather, and I think the Patriots can find a way to get a W.
Man, you guys all believe in Harbaugh. If you believe in Harbaugh, then believe in the fact that they're going to line up, punch the Patriots in the mouth, run the football down their throats, and win a tight game. And that's what I think happens here. I'm going with the Bolts in this one. Jim, I'm a fan of Harbaugh now. Again, now that he's out of that hellhole called Michigan, I'm a fan. Give me the Bolts in this one. And finally, the Buffalo Bills come to town on January 4th. Happy New Year. Patriots, Bills, who do you got in this one?
Well, I mean, I want to pick a win at the end of the season just because it would be a nice way to go out if they don't make the playoffs. So I'm going to pick them in the upset here. Maybe Buffalo doesn't have much to play for in that point and is pulling starters, or resting starters. So I'll go with that one.
I think Buffalo's out of playoff contention by now. Taking the Patriots.
I actually respectfully disagree. I think if the Jets or Miami are going to win the division, Buffalo's fighting for their life in a playoff spot here in a wild card situation. Not saying they're going to win it, but if they're going to get it, they're going to have to win week 18. So I think they find a way to scrap out a W.
Yeah, I'm on board with the Catman on this one. I just think Buffalo will be in the playoff hunt. They might not win the division, but to Tony's point, I think they're fighting for one of those wild card spots. I think they win it. Did any of you keep track of how you pick the games and what their final record will be?
Nope.
I think I'm around 4 or 5.
I believe that I am, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have them at 7 and 10. 7 and 10. Can they go 7 and 10?
If you're right,
Yeah,
why
I think
not?
so.
Like, I think it's going to be 7 and 10, but you want to see how they look.
Yes.
Is Drake May in any of these games? Does he sit the entire season? Jacoby Brissett has a decent year. I think those are sort of the things you look for.
For me, I think you look at the floor. I think if I'm wrong, but I think the floor is 5 or 6 wins, and I think the ceiling to me is maybe 9 if everything goes right. So I think we're in the wheelhouse.
Yeah,
Well,
again, they were
nine lets you compete for a playoff spot, though. They could end up getting in as a potential
Right.
7 seed.
yeah,
Right.
look, they were a 4-win team, but how many games did they lose by a possession or two
Oh,
last
yeah.
year? So, yeah, I think they can get to 7.
Well, and when you think of last year, we remember that blowout loss to the Saints, the blowout loss to the Cowboys, but we forget about the ugly losses at games they could have won. The Washington game, the Los Angeles game, the Indianapolis game. All games they
Even
could have
week
won.
1 against Philly.
Yeah. Or Miami, to your point earlier, the Sunday night game. So, yeah, I mean, there's 5 games right there. All of a sudden now you go 9 and 8. You're a possible playoff team, and Belichick is still here. So, who knows? All right, let's shift gears here for our final segment. And of course, this past Monday and Tuesday were the New England showcases. Tony, you were down in Connecticut on Monday for the Connecticut showcases. You made your way around the state. You went to Choate, you went to Cheshire, you went to Avon Old Farms. Just some thoughts on what you saw in Connecticut, and then you ended up capping off your day at Springfield Central.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that kind of stood out to me is, and I'm not really breaking any news here, but the talent is incredible, right? There's kids all over these schools who are absolute studs. I mean, you look at even the alumni. I mean, Ryan Puglisi's running around Avon Old Farms. You got Dante Reno helping out the kids in the showcase, but the guys who are on the field themselves, every school just was stacked. Will Black, at Choate. You got, you get just different guys that you just,
Yeah.
the
CJ
talent
Bell at St. Thomas More.
I mean, it was unbelievable. St. Thomas More might have been the most stacked team I saw. Like they ran like a college program. Everybody in there's got multiple offers. They all say the right things to the media. They're talking to the coaches. You can hear the conversation with all these big time programs, and they just know what to do and what to say. Like I just came away obviously knowing that if you didn't know New England football was on the rise or already here, like it became so clear when you turn around and I know Stone was at some places too. You're like, wow, Duke's here and Stanford's here and Syracuse is here and all these coaches are just absolutely gawking over these kids and they absolutely should. I mean, my biggest takeaway is the talent is abundant and it's awesome to see.
I was curious because this is a kid that I've been hearing about since he was before a freshman, but he's a freshman now. And I'm talking about Springfield Central freshman running back Isaiah Rogers. This is a kid that's run a 10-500 meter already this spring. What did you see into him?
This kid, honest to God, I mean, it was the 5th stop of 5 stops for me by the end of the night. And I'm so glad that that's where I left off because I think he was my favorite kid of the whole group. Like he was so quiet, so humble. But like when he stepped on the field, put a football in his hand, he ran through the drills. It was evident that he was like on a different playing field, right? Like the amount of attention he was garnishing. I saw a Syracuse coach and I saw like a Duke coach, and they were like fighting over who could talk to him first. Like it was unbelievable to see, and I talked to him and I had a couple minutes off camera and on camera. And like, I don't even think he realizes how good he is just yet. Right. Like, I don't think he even computes in his mind, but the build, he's already built like seniors. You see, like his lower body is stacked. He's got an upper body that's strong. He's going to grow over the next 3 or 4 years. I think he could be one of the best prospects in the entire region.
Kevin, you were at Dexter Southfield. A lot of college coaches on hand there to see a lot of talent, specifically Hardy Watson and our good buddy you all.
Yeah, and to Tony's point, the names of the schools that are at these now, Oklahoma, Georgia, Bama, Michigan State, Penn State, you name it, they're there. And the 2 I was at, there was over 100 coaches at both stops. But yeah, Dexter Southfield, Hardy Watson and Anthony Hall, they dominated sort of the attention. I know Penn State, BC, Michigan State, Michigan all stopped to talk to them and spent quite a bit of time with them, and with good reason. I went to Belmont Hill too, and like Tony at Springfield Central, what a team that they have. There is so much talent at Belmont Hill. A few guys in particular, Tommy Rupley and Samson. I don't want to mess his name up. I believe Onua is how you pronounce it. Two defensive ends. Tommy's got over 14 offers right now. Samson's already committed to Duke. You can see why. I was standing next to a P5 coach, and he saw one rep of Rupley and said, "Yep, we want him. I can leave now." So that he's drawing the attention for a reason. Two other guys that showed a ton of speed, receiver slash DBs, Jamari Robinson and Jordan Summers. Those kids are so fluid, especially in their back pedal as defensive backs. They're going to get a ton of attention. And then, Adam, I know you know this kid very well. Reese Little, the quarterback from Belmont Hill, he played a 3-hour baseball game in right field, literally walked off the field and put on a show for the coaches that were still there. Just incredible arm talent. He's a 2026, I believe. So he's going to grow as well. But overall, just really impressed with the talent that Belmont Hill has. And they're going to have a hell of a season, I think.
Yeah, Belmont Hill tremendous up front too. About when it comes to Little, he was you know, a good quarterback, and he gets, I think, overshadowed a bit by some of the other quarterbacks in the league. But this is a guy that I don't know how tall exactly he is. How tall would you say he is?
So it's funny. I was standing next to a BC coach. He's about the same size as Tommy Castellanos. So
Okay.
5'7" maybe, you know?
Yeah, he's just a tremendous competitor, and he's really blossomed at Belmont Hill. This is a kid too that has the build of somebody who could also play safety, but he plays quarterback. And he's really had a lot of great performances over the last year, and he's only going to get better. He's somebody that's like has the full confidence of his coach. So I was over at St. Sebastian's, and the two main guys that people were looking at were Marky Walbridge, the offensive tackle, and Dominic Funk, the defensive end. But once you got past them, there are also a ton of other guys who are going to be contributors. This is a good team. Like I was, the way I'm sort of describing it to the other ISL coaches that I've talked to is that it's going to be like it was in 2022 when you had 5 teams tie for first with 2 losses each. It's just so much parity. There's not one team that's head and shoulders above everybody else. All those ISL contenders like Tabor, St. Seb's, Belmont Hill, BB&N, Milton Academy, like all those teams are about the same. And so you're just going to see a really, strange battle where all these teams just sort of beat up on each other.
Yeah, I went down to Tabor to check out Jeff Moore's squad, and they were all probably 100 Power 4 and Group of 5 and FCS coaches there. And those guys did a great job. I thought Jeff Moore and his staff did a terrific job. When you look at who worked out, Peter Bork, I thought he had a good workout. I liked what I saw out of him. I also like what they have up front. That offensive line, Will Smith, Botan Varga. You've got. I mean, Varga's all of 6'7". He's a big dude. They've got size. They've got length. They've got athleticism. Caden Drinkwater, a wide receiver. I think that when you look at Tabor, I felt walking away from that showcase that Jeff Moore's team had a lot to offer really all 3 levels. I mean, if you were there recruiting from a Division III school, Division II school, he has guys on his roster that can step in and help you right away. If you're there from an FCS school, he definitely has guys that can help you. And even if you're there from a Group of 5 or a Power 4 school, he has guys there that could potentially grow into playing at those levels. So I thought he did a great job there. About 50 coaches at Milton Academy. When I got there later on in the afternoon, of course, Karan McNeil is the centerpiece of the Milton Academy program. They're really excited. I talked to Coach Mike Mason. They're really excited about what they're bringing in. Dante Berger is kind of the crown jewel of the group of players that they're bringing in this fall, the former Andover running back. But certainly, to Adam's point, the ISL is going to be highly competitive this year, just like the Founders League will be in Connecticut, which it is year in and year out between Avon Old Farms and Choate and Cheshire. Expect more of the same in the ISL 7. But certainly, and Tony, you talked about this earlier. There's just so much more talent here now. And if you're a Power Four Group of Five coach, I mean, Massachusetts, Connecticut, New England, it's a stop now. You're no longer ignoring the Northeast. You've got to come up here. And of course, they also did showcase days in New Jersey and New York. And we already know there's a ton of talent in Jersey, a lot more talent than we've seen in a long time in New York as well. So certainly the football up here is not only as good as it's ever been, but I think we're producing as much talent as we've ever had. And I think you're going to see more and more coaches come up here. I did hear some coaches talking amongst themselves saying that, all right, there might not be a guy here for me, but I'm hoping there is at a couple of the other places. I think there's enough talent, though, that even if you're at a Power Four school, there's guys up here right now that you've either offered or are recruitable enough that you could offer them. All right, gentlemen, any final thoughts?
Just one for me. Boston Renegades just lost their first game in, I believe, 42 attempts dating back to 2019. So a streak ends there, and just a hell of a run by that team. And the season's not over by any means, but anytime you win 40 straight games or 41 straight games in any sport, deserve recognition. So a hell of a run by them.
So just good news on the injury front, because Mekhi Dodd, the running back from Catholic Memorial, who recently committed to Boston College, from everything I've talked to, who people have seen him recently, he is looking good to be back and playing this fall, which is big, a big one for Catholic Memorial. And it's just great to see a kid recover from an injury that was pretty tough on him last season.
I got not too much to add, but I know we got some big camps coming up and some big opportunities to see some more kids before the season starts. So even in the off season, it never really slows down for us, which I love.
No, it doesn't. You're right, Tony. We had the showcases last week, and we got some big camps coming up. Of course, you got the Bone, you got the M2 quarterback camp over at Stonehill. I mean, we'll be all over them. We got a bunch of stuff, and of course, we have the All-Star games as well. We got the Shriners, we've got the Mawinnie Central Mass game as well, so we'll be covering both of those. And Mass Pirates lost a heartbreaker to the Northern Arizona Wranglers over the weekend, 41-40. That's the third loss of the season for the Pirates after getting off to a good start. Seems like they've hit a little bit of a wall here, but you know what? That is life in the IFL. I mean, you've got a lot of good teams this year. So Pirates will look to bounce back this week, but a tough home loss at Songus to a good Northern Arizona team, which, by the way, features former Boston College and Maine wide receiver Kobe White, who has emerged as one of the top receivers in the IFL. All right, well, that'll do it for this week's episode. Tony, I want to say thank you for taking the time, my friend. We're going to do this again soon. Appreciate it as always, brother. Great to see you. Kirkshin, glad that we were able to finally hear from you. I'm glad that the browser switch was the difference. And Stone, great to see you as always, and great job today up at OTAs, man.
Thanks, but you don't mean it.
No, I do mean it. You did a great job. Why wouldn't I mean it?
Thank you.
I do.
No, I meant the great to see you part.
Well, it is good to see you. I mean, why wouldn't it be good to see you? Maybe great was a bit rich, so it's good to see you. How about that? But no, in all seriousness, if you get a chance, go over to anyfootballjournal.com and, you can read Kevin's overview of today. Did a great job kind of breaking it all down, including all the quarterbacks' throws in the different periods. So it's a must read. Again, head over to anyfootballjournal.com and take a look. All right, that'll do it for this week's show. For Tony, for Kevin, and Adam, I'm John Sarianides. Till next week.